They erased me from the family will and said, "You were never really one of us," so I bought their childhood home and sent them the eviction notice. Before I continue with today's story, I'd love for you to support our channel. And while you're at it, drop a comment letting us know where you're watching from. We love seeing how far our stories travel. The lawyer's office smelled like old leather and broken promises. I sat there, 28 years old, watching Mr. Peterson shuffle papers while my siblings whispered among themselves. Mama had been gone 3 weeks, and apparently, she'd left specific instructions. My older brother Edward leaned back in his chair, that smug expression already forming. My sister Lucinda kept checking her phone, barely pretending to care. Then there was Aunt Beverly, Mama's sister, practically vibrating with anticipation in the corner. The estate, Mr. Peterson began, clearing his throat, has been divided among the biological children. My stomach dropped. Biological. That word hung in the air like smoke. I watched him list everything: the house on Oakwood Street worth $400,000, Mama's jewelry collection, her savings accounts totaling $200,000, her vintage car. Edward got the house. Lucinda got the jewelry and half the savings. Even my cousin Troy, who hadn't visited Mama in 5 years, got $20,000. My name never came up. Not once. The silence pressed against my eardrums. "Excuse me," I finally managed, my voice cracking. "There must be some mistake." Mr. Peterson wouldn't meet my eyes. Edward did though. He leaned forward, elbows on the table, wearing that expression I'd learned to hate over 25 years. "No mistake, Keisha," he said slowly. "You were never really one of us anyway." The room tilted. Lucinda finally looked up from her phone, and I saw it, not surprise, but confirmation. They'd known. All of them had known whatever this was, and I was the only one in the dark. "What are you talking about?" My hands gripped the armrests until my knuckles ached. Aunt Beverly spoke up then, her voice dripping with false sympathy that made my skin crawl. "Baby, your mama, she took you in when you were 3. Your real mama was her friend Denise who died in that car crash on Highway 51. Don't you remember?" I didn't remember. I remembered Mama braiding my hair for picture day. I remembered her teaching me to make her famous peach cobbler. I remembered sitting by her hospital bed, holding her hand while cancer ate her alive. I remembered being her daughter. "That's a lie," I whispered, but something in Aunt Beverly's eyes told me it wasn't. Edward pulled out his phone, scrolled, then turned it toward me. A birth certificate. Denise Marie Johnson. Mother. Father unknown. My name, but not my history. Not the history I'd lived. "Mama never legally adopted you," Lucinda added, examining her nails like we were discussing weather. "So technically, you're not entitled to anything. She made that clear in her will." I left that office in a fog. The Atlanta heat hit me like a physical blow, but I barely felt it. My hands shook as I started my Honda, the car I'd bought myself because Mama said it built character to work for things. The car I'd driven to her chemotherapy appointments every Tuesday and Thursday for 8 months. The car I'd slept in outside the hospital during her final days because the nurses said family could stay, and I was family. Except I wasn't. Not according to a piece of paper. Not according to the people who'd shared my childhood, my holidays, my entire existence. The drive home blurred with tears I refused to shed until I was safely inside my apartment. My phone buzzed. "Edward. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Mama made her choice. Respect it. Respect it. Respect being erased like I'd never mattered." I called my best friend Jasmine, the only person I trusted with this fresh wound. "They did what?" Her voice could have stripped paint. "Girl, no. Absolutely not. We're fighting this." But Mr. Peterson had been clear. Without legal adoption papers, without my name in the will, I had no standing. Mama had chosen her biological children, and that choice was final. I hung up and finally let myself break. The sobs came from somewhere deep, somewhere that remembered every "I love you" that apparently meant nothing. 3 days of crying turned into fury. I called my childhood friend Devin, who'd become a private investigator after his stint in the Marines. "I need you to find everything," I told him. "Birth certificates, adoption records, anything that proves I was her daughter." Devin didn't ask questions, just said he'd start digging. Meanwhile, I started my own investigation. I drove to Mama's house, Edward's house now. The thought made me sick, and knocked on the door. Edward opened it, blocking the entrance with his body. "What do you want, Keisha?" Behind him, I could see boxes. They were already sorting through Mama's things, erasing her presence like she was just stuff to be distributed. "I want to talk. Please. About Mama, about what she really wanted." "She wanted her real family to have what she built," Edward interrupted. "You had 25 years of charity. Be grateful." Charity. That word detonated something inside me. Charity. I took care of her. Where were you when she needed her medication at 3 a.m.? Where were you during the surgeries, the treatments, He slammed the door in my face. I stood there, shaking, then noticed the mailbox. Still stuffed with Mama's mail. I grabbed it, bills, catalogs, and one envelope from First National Bank. Mortgage statement. The house wasn't paid off. Edward had inherited a $400,000 house with $200,000 still owed. Devin called me at midnight, his voice tight with anger. "Keisha, you need to sit down for this." I was already sitting, hunched over my laptop, researching property laws and inheritance rights. "What did you find?" The silence stretched too long. "Your mama, she did try to adopt you. Filed the paperwork when you were 5 years old. But someone blocked it. Beverly. Your Aunt Beverly convinced her it was unnecessary, that you were already family, that legal papers didn't matter." The room spun. "Why would she do that?" Devin sighed. "Because Beverly knew exactly what she was doing. I found emails, Keisha. Recent ones, from 2 years ago. Beverly was pushing your mama to protect the bloodline. She kept saying the house should stay in the family, that you'd understand. Your mama was sick, vulnerable, and Beverly manipulated her. I couldn't breathe. Aunt Beverly, who'd called me sugar my whole life, who'd made me matching Easter dresses with Lucinda, had systematically erased my legal existence." "There's more," Devin continued. "Edward and Lucinda knew. There's a group text from a year ago. They discussed making sure you weren't in the will. Edward literally wrote, 'She's not blood. We need to protect what's ours.' Lucinda agreed. They planned this, Keisha. While you were caring for your dying mother, they were plotting to take everything." My hands clenched into fists. I thought of every bedpan I'd emptied, every medicine I'd measured, every prayer I'd whispered while Mama slept. I spent the next week becoming an expert in estate law. I learned that in Georgia, you could contest a will based on undue influence. I learned that manipulation of a sick person constituted fraud. I also learned something else. Mama's finances told a story my siblings didn't know I could read. See, I'd handled Mama's bills the last 2 years of her life. I had access to her statements, her records, everything. And what I found made my blood boil. Edward had borrowed $50,000 from Mama 3 years ago for his business venture that failed spectacularly. No repayment plan. No interest. Just Mama's retirement fund, gone. Lucinda had used Mama's credit cards for a luxury vacation to Dubai, racking up $30,000 in charges that Mama paid off. Aunt Beverly. She'd convinced Mama to co-sign a loan for $40,000 that Beverly defaulted on, sticking Mama with the payments. Meanwhile, my bank statements showed a different story. Monthly transfers to Mama's account. $2,000 every month for 2 years, helping cover her medical bills and living expenses. I'd paid for her prescriptions, her physical therapy, her special dietary needs. I'd used my vacation days to take her to appointments. I'd put my life on hold to make sure she wasn't alone. The numbers didn't lie. I'd invested over $70,000 and countless hours. They'd only taken. Edward made his first major error 2 weeks after the will reading. He called me, voice dripping with false concern. "Keisha, we found some of Mama's things we thought you might want. Some photos, her recipe book, maybe that old quilt. Scraps." He was offering me scraps while sitting in a house I'd helped maintain, filled with furniture I'd helped buy. "I'll come by tomorrow," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "Thank you." I arrived with Jasmine and Devon. Edward wasn't expecting witnesses. He met us at the door, annoyed. "I said you could pick up some things, not bring an entourage." Jasmine smiled sweetly. "We're just here to help carry." "That okay?" Inside, the house looked ransacked. Lucinda was there too, sorting through Mama's jewelry in the living room like a dragon with her hoard. They'd ripped down family photos, including ones with me. "Here," Edward shoved a small box at me. "Take this and go." I opened it. The recipe book with Mama's handwriting. A few photos. The quilt she'd made me when I was 7. Nothing of monetary value. Nothing that proved I'd ever mattered. But then I saw it, Mama's desk in the corner, the one Edward clearly hadn't searched yet. "Can I have her Bible?" I asked. "The one she read every morning." Edward waved dismissively. "Whatever, take it." "Just the Bible though." I walked to the desk, feeling their eyes on my back. Mama's Bible sat there, worn leather cover, pages marked with her handwritten notes. I picked it up, and something slipped out. An envelope, addressed to me in Mama's shaky handwriting. My heart nearly stopped. "What's that?" Lucinda stood up, suspicious. I tucked it into the Bible quickly. "Just a bookmark." "Can I go now?" Edward couldn't wait to get rid of us. The moment I reached my car, I tore open the envelope. Inside was a letter dated 6 months before Mama died, and a key. "My dearest Keisha," it began. "If you're reading this, then I'm gone, and I fear Beverly has done what she threatened." I was weak. I was scared. I let her convince me that blood mattered more than love, and that will be my greatest regret in heaven. The letter continued, and each word felt like Mama's hand on my shoulder. "You are my daughter in every way that matters." I was so sick, and Beverly kept saying the others would contest anything that included you, that it would tear the family apart. She said you'd understand, that you were strong enough to be okay without an inheritance. But baby, you deserved everything. I'm sorry I was too weak to fight for you when it counted. My vision blurred with tears. The key is to my safety deposit box at First National. Box 247. Inside, you'll find something I kept safe. Love letters from your real mama, Denise. She wanted you to have them. She also left you something, a life insurance policy she named me beneficiary of, with instructions to save it for you. It's not about the money, baby. It's proof you were wanted, loved, chosen. Twice. Don't let Beverly's poison make you forget that. You were my daughter. You are my daughter. Always. Mama. First National Bank opened at 9. I was there at 8:50, letter clutched in my sweating palm. The key felt heavy, loaded with possibility and pain. The banker, Mrs. Wallace, recognized me from when I'd come with Mama. Her expression softened when she saw my face. "I'm so sorry for your loss, dear." She talked about you constantly. So proud. Those words nearly broke me again. Box 247 was larger than I expected. Mrs. Wallace left me alone in the small room, and I opened it with shaking hands. Inside, a bundle of letters tied with ribbon, photos of a young woman who looked startlingly like me, and a life insurance statement. Metropolitan Life Insurance. Beneficiary, Angela Thompson, Mama. Policy value, $150,000. Issued 1997. Never claimed. At the bottom, a note in Denise's handwriting, for my baby girl's future. Angela, please make sure she gets this. She deserves the world. D. $150,000. Money that was legally mine, that Mama had been holding for me, that Beverly and Edward and Lucinda knew nothing about. But it wasn't the money that made me cry. It was the letters. 23 of them, written by Denise during her pregnancy and my first 3 years. Dear baby girl, today I felt you kick for the first time. You have my eyes, my smile, my stubborn spirit. Angela promised if anything happens to me, she'll love you like her own. You're so lucky. She's the best person I know. I called an emergency meeting with Devin and Jasmine at my apartment. On my coffee table, the letters, the insurance policy, Mama's Bible, and printouts of every financial transaction I'd documented. They think they won, I said, and for the first time in weeks, I felt something other than grief. I felt purpose. They have no idea what's coming. Devin grinned. Talk to me. First, I'm claiming the life insurance. It's legally mine, and there's nothing they can do about it. That's $150,000. Second, I'm going to use that money strategically. I pulled up something on my laptop that made Jasmine gasp. No. You didn't. I did. The house on Oakwood Street. Edward inherited it with a $200,000 mortgage. He's already behind on payments, I checked the public records. The bank's going to foreclose in 90 days if he doesn't catch up. Devin leaned forward, catching on. And you're going to buy it? Not directly, obviously. Through an LLC. The bank's already looking for a buyer. Houses in that neighborhood are hot property. I've been talking to a real estate attorney. We make a cash offer below market value but above what's owed. The bank accepts because it's quick and clean. Edward gets evicted. The room went silent. Jasmine whistled low. That's cold-blooded. They erased me from the family, I said quietly. I'm just returning the favor. It took 6 weeks to set up the LLC, DM Properties, named after Denise Marie, my real mother. My real estate attorney, Mrs. Rodriguez, was a shark in expensive heels who'd heard my story and taken the case with frightening enthusiasm. I've seen families do terrible things over money, she said. But what they did to you while you were caring for your mother. That's special level terrible. Let's make this happen. The bank accepted our offer of $225,000. Cash. Closing in 2 weeks. Edward had no idea the clock was ticking. I watched from across the street the day the foreclosure notice arrived. He came out to the mailbox, opened it, and I saw his face go pale even from that distance. He immediately called someone, Lucinda probably, based on the aggressive hand gestures. 2 days later, he called me. Keisha, I need a favor. The audacity. What kind of favor, Edward? I need to borrow some money. Just $50,000. The bank's making a mistake with the mortgage, and I need to. No. Silence. What do you mean, no? I mean no, Edward. I don't have $50,000 to lend you. I'm just the charity case, remember? Not really family. I could hear his teeth grinding. Don't be petty. Mama would want family to help each other. Mama wanted me in her will. Mama wanted to adopt me legally. But Beverly convinced her I didn't matter, and you all agreed. So no. Figure it out yourself. I hung up, and it felt like freedom. Closing day arrived like Christmas morning. I signed papers in Mrs. Rodriguez's office, officially becoming the owner of 847 Oakwood Street. The house where Mama taught me to cook. Where I'd scraped my knee learning to ride a bike. Where I'd spent 25 years believing I belonged. You want to do the honors? Mrs. Rodriguez held out the eviction notice, professionally printed on legal letterhead. DM Properties LLC vs. Edward Thompson. 30 days to vacate. I delivered it personally. Knocked on the door at 10 a.m. on a Saturday, knowing Edward would be home. He opened it in his pajamas, irritated. What now, Keisha? I handed him the envelope. This is for you. He opened it right there, and watching his face was sweeter than any inheritance could have been. The color drained. His mouth opened and closed like a fish. What? How did you? Read it carefully, Edward. You have 30 days. The house belongs to DM Properties now. That's me. I'm your landlord. You can't do this. His voice cracked. This is my house. Mama left it to me. No, Mama left you a house with a mortgage you couldn't afford. You got foreclosed on because you're terrible with money. I bought it. Legally. Fair and square. Lucinda appeared behind him, snatching the paper. Her scream could have shattered glass. You vindictive bitch. No, I corrected calmly. I'm just not family, remember. This is just business. And business says you're trespassing on my property in 30 days. The final showdown happened at Aunt Beverly's house 3 weeks later. She'd summoned the family for an intervention about my behavior. I arrived with Devon, Jasmine, Mrs. Rodriguez, and a folder full of documents. The living room fell silent when we walked in. Edward, Lucinda, Beverly, even Cousin Troy who'd gotten his $20,000. Keisha, this has gone too far, Beverly started, using her matriarch voice. You're tearing this family apart over money. I laughed. Actually laughed. I'm tearing the family apart. Let's talk about you blocking my adoption. Let's talk about you manipulating a dying woman to exclude her daughter from her will. Let's talk about this text thread. I pulled out printouts, where you all discussed making sure I got nothing while I was literally sleeping in the hospital with Mama. The room went silent. Where did you? Edward started. Devon's a PI. He found everything. Here's what's going to happen, I continued, and my voice didn't shake. Edward, you're moving out in 1 week. I'm keeping the house. Lucinda, I've contacted the credit card companies about the charges you fraudulently made on Mama's cards while she was sick. That's elder abuse. Beverly, the loan company would love to know you coerced a cancer patient into co-signing. These are crimes. Beverly's face went purple. You wouldn't dare. Try me. Or, here's option 2, you leave me alone. Forever. No calls, no texts, no showing up at my job. You pretend I don't exist, which is what you wanted anyway. Edward stood up, shaking. The house is worth $400,000. You're stealing, I'm keeping what I paid for. You inherited a house you couldn't afford. That's not my problem. Besides, let's talk about what I invested in Mama's care. $70,000, conservatively. So really, you still owe me. The math shut him up. One by one, they left Beverly's house, and I realized I was finally free. Free from their judgment, their dismissal, their poison. A month later, I stood in Mama's kitchen, my kitchen, repainting the walls. Jasmine helped, music playing, windows open. You okay? She asked. I thought about Mama, about Denise, about being chosen twice and discarded once. I thought about the family photos I was putting back up, including ones with me. Yeah, I said, and meant it. I'm home. Mama's Bible sat on the counter, open to a page she'd marked, "The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone." Some families are born. Some are chosen. And some, you build yourself from the ruins of what tried to destroy you. I chose the latter, and I've never looked back.